Epic drop.
Hi and welcome, my Guardians of the Veil. I'll go with that one. Today we're going to talk about Dragon Age The Veilguard very quickly. See, that game has, let's be honest, a little bit of an issue, a little bit of a crisis. It is very divisive right now, but I haven't played the game. And so I'm not going to talk about how good the game is or where it falls or fails. What we're going to talk about is the development process, the anticipation, and how basically the context of how we're going to talk about this game in the future. Now, the one thing that I have to be very honest about is how I love the Dragon Age franchise, but I'm not initially like a diehard like a lot of people. I love the first one very much, near and dear to my heart. The second one, not as much. The third one, very much. I really adored Inquisition for reasons that are my own, but for this particular one, I was not as hyped. The reason was because of Inquisition. Inquisition, the Trespasser DLC, just left us with such a big anticipation, such a big wait, and it was going to be hard to follow up. It was basically leaving us with the idea that the Inquisition, whether you decided to split them up or you decided to keep them together, was going to be a big part of, the search for Solas, being able to redeem him or, punish him or whatever you wanted to do. It set up a big story where you were at the center of this thing and you were going to follow exactly what happened with Inquisition. And so we thought that whatever systems were in there, they were going to be improved. Whatever complaints we had about this game were going to be nullified, right? They were going to be addressed. Instead, we got 10 years of very weird development, not really knowing where the game was going to go. And then something happened where it became very, very apparent to us that we were not going to get the same game. So the moment that they actually changed the name from Dreadwolf to Veilguard, we knew something was up. And I took it as, okay, they're not going to follow up the Inquisition story. They're going to do something totally different. They're not even going to mention it. There's going to be something totally different. That really frustrated, I got frustrated in somewhat. I was not really hyped for the game, knowing that it was coming soon. I was like, But then, Norza graced us with his previews, and I highly, recommend that you go and check them out if you haven't checked them out yet. And he has also a review on it, which, I really do respect the point of view of a lot of my peers, but I need to make my own decisions. I need to see things for myself and see exactly what people are talking about. And there's a moment in the end of Inquisition when they say, well, actually, Solas says, no, actually, they're talking about Solas, right? So at the very end, I don't remember exactly who said that, whether it is Liana or whether it is Cassandra, but someone says, Solas knows our strengths and weaknesses, so we find people that he doesn't know. And so now I thought, you know what? Maybe they're just going to create this new group that, Solas doesn't know, and that group's going to work with the Inquisition. We're going to get our next game. And then we got the trailer, and now I understood basically what they were doing. When Nords actually went ahead and interviewed the game directors and producers and whatnot, I totally understand what they were doing. They're taking this series in a different direction, not only the combat, but also the way that the characters were going to be made, the way that loot was going to be handled, the way that a lot of things were going to be made. I myself thought that, if they changed the name, if it would have been like not a Dragon Age game and just called like the Veilguard and people would have played it, I think I think a lot of the negativity around it would have been a little bit different because the tone would have been the tone of that own game and the language of that game would have been the language of that own game. And I think that people that would have been fan of Dragon Age, would have got like a straight follow-up to Inquisition and they would have been very happy with that, right? That would have been the way to make sure that two camps are happy. But instead, they made this, which is basically something that they try to do to make, the old fans happy, the new fans happy, but knowing that a lot of the decisions that you've made in prior games were not really going to matter in this game, I think alienated a lot of people. And I think it became very hard for a lot of people to reconcile the fact of why are you doing this? Now, the thing is, we're not in development. I thought of myself, you know what, if they have to rely on the keep to be able to have your saves transfers and all these things. Maybe that was too much, like, in a technical fashion. Maybe that was a little bit too much for the team to handle. Maybe it was extra taxing and they didn't want to have to deal with that. Maybe they wanted to set the expectation of future games not doing that in the future necessarily, right? That not you shouldn't expect all their games to have that interconnectivity the way that Inquisition really respected the choices that you had before and even brought back characters in a meaningful way. Um, we were left with a whole lot of things, in the air and felt like, okay, the next game is going to be the one that's going to address all of that. And that's not going to be the case. We know that now. And so there's been a lot of discussion about this game, whether it is good, whether it is bad. Some people say it's the return of Dragon Age. Some people say it's the kind of like the Disneyfied version of a Dragon Age game, or like a Pixar version of a Dragon Age game, Marvel version of Dragon Age, whatever you want to call it right now. A lot of people saying that. Some people are saying it's a very solid RPG. Some people are saying that the combat is great. I don't know where it's gonna land with me. I just know that I hear these things, then I wipe them out of my memory, telling myself, "Hey, I need to play for myself." So we'll know in a few moments because it is out. And I don't get review codes, so we pay for everything that we show, and therefore, I think that mindset, I don't have any expectations of having something given to me, because I know a lot of people had that complaint that they didn't have the code given to them ahead of time, and that was a point of contempt with the game and the way that they think that they were playing with review scores, which seems like something that um that producer, not Bioware, but it seems like something that EA would do without a problem whatsoever. I've heard also other issues with the game. So some people are saying that there's some woke-ish in the game, and apparently it is mostly centered about a trans character, which, by the way, we also had one in Dragon Age Inquisition as a member of Iron Bull's Chargers. We also had like a gay character in Origins, as well as a potential threesome in another game. So I mean, there's a lot of different things. So I'm wondering here, what is the issue? I've heard, to be fair, that the issue was not with the fact that that was in the story. It was more the way it was handled, the way it was presented, using common terms that doesn't really fit a high fantasy kind of world. Now that's a distinction that I can understand, because let's say, like, in a game, right? You have a black character. In high fantasy, is he Afro American, or is he just a black guy from some place? Like, do you have to explain it, or do you leave it up to people to just, like, I'll let you decide whatever you want. It's a fantasy world. It doesn't have to align with the reality of this world. And so whatever you want to think it is, that's what it is. Um, I think they chose to more like address things. So we'll see. Um, but yeah, apart from that, there's a lot of changes. The fighting mechanics is very different. It looks different. At first it looked in a way that didn't really impress me. Then I looked a little bit more into it. Once again, check out Norris's videos on it. And yeah, felt a little bit better about it. So all in all, we're gonna check it out, come back to it. But I can tell you the reason why a lot of people have discontent. It's all these reasons. Number one, it's a long wait, which leads to a lot of anticipation, which means that a lot of times you can't meet these expectations because they're very lofty. And then you have the issue of a big cliffhanger and the promise of a couple of things, right? That I think were not, or are not going to be met. And I don't think they were really straightforward about that until very close to the release, which I think caused another issue. And then, of course, you have the fact that the tone has changed. Some people don't like the art. I personally, I love it. I like it. Although I do think that everything is low, like a tinge of blue and purple, but still, it's a choice. I don't mind the choice. And then, the fact that a lot of people didn't get review codes early. A lot of people thought that it was an attempt to be able to shut them up and make sure that only good reviews come out by the time that the game is out, which I think is not only, like, yeah, it's a shrewd move for sure, but it's also like very dishonest, because that would be a little bit like trying to control people's, like, freedom of speech. If you know that someone is going to say something negative and you're trying to, like, make sure that their voices are not heard, I don't think that that's something that is cool. But once again, we'll have to see for ourselves. Me doesn't affect me one way or another because I will wait for the moment to the game to come out, play with everyone else, and then we'll have a conversation about it. I think that's how it should be, anyways. But early review codes has been a thing for a very, 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 very long time. It's not gonna stop now. So let's check it out. All right, my Guardians of the Veil. We're gonna call it for now, and we're looking forward to see you back when we make our next Veilguard, Dragon Age Veilguard, the Veilguard. That title, Dragon Age The Veilguard video, coming up next. Stay tuned.